Okay, it looks like we're recording. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our June huddle. That is going to be all about making the case for support for your Main Street organization. So you guys are familiar with this slide by now, but these are the meeting controls for anyone unfamiliar with Teams. Please keep yourself muted until it's time to share and be aware that this meeting is being recorded. Again, feel free to pop any questions or thoughts into the chat throughout the meeting. Next slide, thank you. Today's objectives for this huddle are to teach you all how to create a concise and compelling elevator pitch to communicate the value of your program quickly and effectively to stakeholders, as well as help participants understand the power of storytelling in building support and engagement, and everyone's favorite topic, orientation to economic development data reporting, which will be starting in July, I believe. And then just a quick overview of our agenda for today. We're going to do a quick warm up here in a second. Alex from Letterpress is going to be talking with us about making that case for support in your communities. We'll touch quickly on the next 30 days of this cohort. And then again, we'll wrap up at around 12:15 and you have that optional Q&A time or additional networking time. And then we'll adjourn for sure by 12:30. So we're going to do a quick welcome and warm up here to get us started. Let's see. So we are so excited to welcome Alex Fiach. I hope I'm saying that correctly as our trainer today. Alex is the former executive director of the Marion Downtown Revitalization Association, where she led through the challenges of the pandemic. She joined Letterpress Communications in 2020 as a creative consultant, quickly advancing to account executive, then creative director, and now as CEO of the company. Alex brings a wide range of experience and a sharp creative eye to every role she takes on. We've learned a lot from her over the years, and we're sure you will today as well. Welcome, Alex. We're very excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Amy. You were close. It's Veach.
Beach. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens all the time.
And I believe you're going to lead us through the roll call. Is that right?
I am. So I hope everybody's got a pen and paper or a Word document pulled up because you'll want to take some notes. Spoiler alert, this will help with your homework. So if you take the time to, during our pauses and write some of these down, I promise you'll get a head start on your homework. But I love for each of y'all to share in the chat who you are, who your community, what community you're representing. And then we're going to talk about 3 words. So what are the 3 words that describe your community, your organization at this current moment, or how you would hope people will describe you all in the future when you become a Main Street? Jeff Bezos says it the best, that your brand is who you are. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So what do you hope people will say about you all when you're not in the room? Great. We've got Rebecca from Salem, emerging, growing, excited. Love it. And it's okay. 3 words are hard. I will accept a small phrase, but ideally it's 1 word. John, thank you. Leesburg, engaging, helpful, inclusive. Bowling Green, grassroots, hopeful, excited. Discovering, growing, moving. Y'all got some work to do on deciding on your 3 words. That's great. Liz and Hannah with Portsmouth, vibrant, center of activity, community rooted. Great. Anybody else? Zach with Rocky Mount, eager, partners, ambitious. Great. Shannon with Pulaski, rising, community, excited. Good words. Missy with Rocky Mount, collaborative, proud, hopeful. Got some similar words there with Zach. That's great. And don't worry if you're struggling. These can be hard to do. So just know that these will grow and change with you as an organization. Your messaging, we'll be talking about brand and messaging guides. That's a living document. So these things will evolve over time as you grow as an organization. Oh, one more, Adrian. Great with Waynesboro, sustaining, growing, community focused. I love it. Y'all will get a chance to put these words into practice in a little bit, but I'll hand it back over so y'all can look at your homework from last time.
Thank you, Alex. So as you said, we just want to touch quickly on the assignments that were due this month, and that includes the See the Possible Canvas handout from the Rev Up, as well as phase 1 of your business inventory. Again, you can find those in your Google Drive folder, and we'll be able to access the links from this presentation as well. Please go ahead and fill those out and submit them if you haven't. You want to make sure you're staying up to date with the assignments. While we were talking about homework, did anyone have any aha moments or questions that we can discuss as a group? Okay, I'm not seeing any, but you can always talk to your PA or pop a question or thought that you had about it into the chat. And with that, I believe I'm going to hand it off to Kyle now for making the case for support.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. And hopefully I got these room assignments all set up correctly. That's always technology. You know, I gotta release some level of control. But so thank you. I'm gonna be the guy working behind the curtain from this point forward. So really, Alex has the floor. And let's talk about storytelling, making the case for support. Oh, can't hear you. That's really important to hear you. There you go.
That is right. Thank you, Kyle. I'm so excited to be here talking with you all today. We're going to focus on elevator pitch, but we're going to help you guys dive into your overall messaging, which will help guide everything that you do as an organization. So we can go on to the next slide. We're going to start with finding your story. And also, this is casual. I love to make these as much like an in-person workshop as possible. So if you have something you want to say, feel free to raise your hand and unmute and ask. You can pop it in the chat. I'll keep the chat up so I can take a look at it. But finding your story. So who feels like they have their story down pat? Just raise your hand. Anybody? I'm not seeing any hands. Who feels like they feel kind of good about it? Any hands? Well, today we're going to figure out how to find, tell, and then amplify your story. So it starts off with your community story. That is at the root of what you do. Building a brand for an organization like a Main Street, you have the easiest thing there. You will always be in this community. So your community is at the root of your brand. So it's your people, your place, your businesses, the history of your community, the history of your downtown district. All of those things should sit at the heart of your messaging. And then next, it's your organization story. How did you get started? How are you here? What brought you to this point? And then as you grow as an organization, how do you continue to articulate the evolution and the growth of your downtown? When I was with the town of Marion, I was really blessed to be in a very established Main Street. In fact, they're celebrating 30 years this year. So I can tell you now, and even though I'm still volunteering with Marion Downtown and helping with planning that 30th, save your organizational artifacts now. It may seem silly, but when you get to 30 years, you're going to want to have those things. So as you're going through and you're learning how to articulate your current story, how you got to where you are at this point, as you move forward and you grow as an organization, think about saving things. Save that first board agenda. Save pictures, take video. You're going to need all of these things. And the more that you have in visual assets, the better. It'll make life so much easier now and down the road. And then when you're finding your story and thinking about who you are, so this is what you say to people. Your numbers are important. And you may feel like you don't have a ton of strong data now, but you do. You have historical data. You have how long your community has been around once you become incorporated as a town or a city. How many businesses are currently downtown? Spoiler alert here, you're going to need to know that for the data bonanza at the end of the year when you become a Main Street. So you want to track that growth. So what are your current stats now? How many businesses do you have downtown? How many apartments do you have downtown? How many people are actively involved in your organization as a volunteer or on your board? So right now it's just counting. It's people and places. And then as you start to grow, you can start putting additional numbers to that. So percentage of growth year over year, year over 5 years. So all of those things, the key is you're in a wonderful spot getting started because you can start collecting all of these things now. So taking the time to put processes in place where you are pausing and collecting that data either monthly or quarterly, I promise it'll make your life easier and especially make your storytelling stronger. Kyle, we can go on to the next page. So telling your story. So you guys just did some of that work. Your 3 words are the start of your keywords and tone words as an organization. We have found here at Letterpress, we do a lot of work in rural communities, a lot of work with teams of 1 or teams of none with volunteers. And we have found that creating and taking the time to do this foundational brand and messaging work can help make AI a wonderful storytelling partner. So back in the winter, I did a public relations workshop for the current Main Streets. And there was an executive director in there who had really worked hard on a solid AI prompt. And she had her brand and messaging guide, the Virginia Main Street brand and messaging guide, her best grant narratives, her favorite emails that she's written, top social posts, all of those things. And that's how she was creating a prompt in ChatGPT to help her with her writing. And it had become so strong that she was actually using ChatGPT to help write press releases. So doing this foundational work right now is going to help you leverage generative AI as it continues to grow. Understanding your audience. This is where we'll pause for a minute because this will help with your homework. So take a few minutes to write down who your audience is, both internal and external. So I'll give you all about a minute. And once you have written some down, if you want to pop them into the chat, that would be great. And trust me, it's going to be a lot more than you think once you start making that list. So Oh, great, Mandy. Thank you. You just beat me to it. I was going to ask for internal first. Stakeholders, board, leadership. Who else could be an internal audience? Anybody have any other ideas that different from that? Town council. I think that you can consider that internal or external depending on your structure, but absolutely. I would say volunteers. Definitely think about volunteers. As you grow as an organization, it's going to be your volunteers that become, you got to think about volunteers as friend raising. You need to start raising your friends now. So when it comes time for new board members, you have people that you can reach out to and you're not working hard to find board members. You want people who've already been involved in the organization. That's a great list. Who wants to share some external audiences? Businesses, local officials, funder, the greater community, absolutely residents, neighbors. So you almost have a couple of layers of external. You've got the people who are immediately in your downtown district, but then you've got the neighborhoods and the businesses that surround it and support the downtown district. Tourists, yes, absolutely. So you want those heads and beds and tourism dollars coming in and that meals tax coming into your community. So tourists, absolutely. Landlords, so building owners and landlords. Think about those. Building owners can be your best and sometimes most difficult external audience, as I experienced as a Main Street executive director. So keep those in mind. All of these people, you want to be putting your best foot forward, and always remember that some of these people will become your internal audience too. So when you're externally messaging, all of these people could potentially become stronger partners and stakeholders in your organization. And even tourists, I fully believe, I can't take this quote. Ken Heath says this, but tourism is economic development's first date. So if you can get people to come and fall in love with your town and visit over and over again, those could be your next residents in town or in your downtown district. So you want to always put that best foot forward and help your businesses understand that the tourism audience is important and can be important to the growth of your community. Shannon, yes, absolutely. Your EDA or IDA, the folks that are doing that economic development work. And in a lot of places, in a small town, you may have not a ton happening right in the immediate town, but you might have a county who's doing really strong work. So you always want to think about the county that you're in as well, and how can you feed into the economic development work that your locality as a whole is doing. Great. Awesome. And then in telling your story, make it visual. We all know that our attention spans are super small right now, thanks to social media. So anytime that you can have photo and video and infographics, that's going to help reel people in, so then you have more time and space to tell them the full story. So always think about those visuals as your teaser to get people to come in and learn more about your organization. And most importantly, be consistent. Once you've established a brand, established your logo, your colors, and your fonts, you want to use those on a regular basis anywhere and everywhere you can. It takes on average 8 touches with somebody to recognize a brand. So the more consistent you are with your visuals, with your words, what you say and how you say it, you're going to help create that brand recognition, and then ultimately help you make that case for support better, because you're going to have that foundation laid, and you don't have to come in cold with somebody and say, oh, we need X number of dollars from the town council. Hopefully everybody on that council has seen your communications go out, and you've laid that foundation, and that takes away that first level of having to explain who you are, and you can dive right into the real message of why what you're doing is important. Awesome. Any questions before we head into our exercise? All right, Kyle, we can go on to the next slide. So we're going to practice our elevator pitch. And right now we're going to work on a foundational elevator pitch. So this is one of my favorite ways to think about it. Imagine that you are at a family reunion. It is outside, you're at picnic tables, it's loud, you're talking to your great aunt. She's a little hard of hearing. Also, like lunch is getting ready to serve, so meat is coming off the grill, everybody's getting ready to eat, so you don't have a lot of time, but she leans over and says to you, "What's this Main Street thing you're working on?" How do you describe to your great aunt what you're doing as an organization and why it's important, why she should care? So we are going to break out into groups. You guys are going to work together, take a few minutes to work individually. And then as a group, you can take turns practicing your elevator pitch. And then when we come back, I hope we maybe have a volunteer or two who would like to practice their elevator pitch in front of the group.
Before we break out, Alex, can you one more time say those two questions that they're sort of at the core of their messaging? Yes, we know the audience, sweet old great aunt, but what are those two questions that are part of the messaging there again? One more time.
It is, what is your organization? How do you describe it? And why is it important?
Awesome. Any questions before we break? Okay, gear up. Now, there's going to be a slide. Well, you're going to have a table guide in each one of your breakout rooms. They're going to have the question in front, and they're going to help keep you on point. Everybody is randomized, so you may or may not have some of your community partners, your task force partners in there. But just get ready. We're going to do a little breakout, and you've got a table guide to help you navigate your time. We're aiming for about 15 minutes. People are coming in. I'm going to see if we've got, let's stop this. Okay, I want to make sure everybody gets put into a room. All right, let's open some rooms. All right, we always have a few people that don't jump out. So looks like we have a few folks. The rest of you that are here, Adrian, Ben, did you guys get the prompt to go into another room and it's just not working? Oh, you got kicked out? Okay. Well, we could just stay here. It's no problem. I planned for that. And you got our trainer, Alex, to stick around and be an ear and provide some real-time guidance if needed. And actually, she's more of a table guide. I'll be a scribe in this case. So
Happy to guide y'all. So let's take like 5 minutes or so to think about how you're going to explain what it is that you do and why it is important. And then we'll come back and let everybody give their little elevator pitch.
And I'm just gonna disclaimer, we have one person that's lurking in the background that I know you don't know who she is. This is Chandra Telleton, and she's with Main Street America. She'll be working with you guys over the July and August huddles as well through the fall with the Transformation Strategy Service with Main Street America. So hi, Chandra, good to see you.
Good morning. I'm preparing my elevator pitch as well for Main Street America.
Nice. Thanks for joining us, Chandra.
Well, thank you for having me.
I should really be doing a better job of looking at the clock, I'll tell you.
Oh, we've spent about a minute and a half.
Okay.
We're aiming for 34 minutes.
Okay. So we should be
45 minutes.
putting everybody back together at around 11:40-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. I was using the runtime clock.
Okay. John, I guess you got bumped out. Just consider this main room one of the breakout groups. So we're going to be working on sharing the elevator pitch in just a moment. Everybody's kind of taking some time to scribble down some notes. And we'll have about 10 minutes to get through as many as possible.
We've got about 2 more minutes, y'all.
So I guess what we could actually go through some options for you. And Kelvin and I were just in Roanoke yesterday, working with the licensing street cohort of the Unlocking Capital project. And gotcha. And one of the things that the group decided was of the 5 neighborhoods that Mosaic is working on, they decided to focus on the 11th Street neighborhood commercial district and some of the next steps about engaging the community there. So I think that as a group, you will really have to work on what is this Main Street thing as the outreach to the community starts to pick off. So one of the short ways that I describe it is that it's a tried and tested method for commercial district revitalization that has been successful all over the country in a wide variety of neighborhood types, including neighborhoods just like this. And that's really it. That's the end of my first salvo into the conversation. And
All
then
right,
start
y'all.
to
It's been
engage
about, do
them
we have somebody
and find
unmuted?
out what is important to them.
You might hear Courtney in the background. I'll mute.
Okay.
It's like being in a call center right now. Everybody's chatting with their groups.
I was trying to figure out who was talking. So, okay. Who would like to share their elevator pitch?
I can share mine, Jordan.
Thank you. Imagine that I had candy to give you. Like normally with these workshops, like I have candy because it's too early for airplane bottles. So virtual candy for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Of course. So for me, I would say that Main Street is a national organization dedicated to really revitalizing towns across the country. And for us in Occoquan, as a small business and residential district, we're working hand in hand to strengthen our economic development through community-driven revitalization.
Yeah. I think that's great to add that layer of national, and then depending on your audience, you may want to explain how Virginia works, because every state is different in how their main streets work. So that becomes important to kind of where you are in your organizational journey. So you may want to even take it a step further and describe Virginia, what level you are in the Virginia process. Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jordan.
Of course.
Who else?
I can go next. This is Erin from Leesburg.
Or we'll do Aaron, and then I think it was Katie.
I'll put my cheat sheet in the chat. Don't mind my answer.
Okay, the word that I use a lot when describing our organization is liaison. So I position us as the liaison between small businesses, residents, and town government to support economic growth, tourism, and historic preservation. And then I find it really important to list like our current and upcoming projects that we're working on to kind of solidify and kind of make it more real what we're doing.
Absolutely. And that's a great, you've got a solid foundation there. And then talking about the projects is how you can start to tailor that for your audience. So when you've got folks, like depending on who, you know, your great aunt, maybe she really loves to go out to eat and you're talking about a restaurant week or something like that, that you want to lean into that. And so that can be a great way to tailor what you're talking about, to who you're talking to. Yeah. Thank you.
How much detail should you go into in these initial elevator pitches?
That's a great question. So I think it's a small snippet, and it really comes down to then how you read the person you're talking to. So you want to kind of pay attention to their cues. If they lean in on something or they smile and nod on something, think about like if you can quickly pivot and lean in farther on that piece, that can be how you do that. So I say it's 2 or 3 sentences to start, and then hopefully engaging enough that you then roll into a further conversation where you're talking about projects and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Katie, were you next?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
I said we're a group of community members who work together to see the possibilities for Bowling Green come to life so that we can leave our town better than we found it for generations to come.
I like it. And that would be that case where, you know, where you could go into what that actually means. What are some things that you're doing to preserve? What are you things that you're doing to further in progress? Great start. Solid.
And I'm going to go back and make sure that I capture this stuff like you've said it. I've found that I can't keep up with your beautiful words. So just stay tuned. When you get the final product on that, it'll be in there.
Yeah. Who would like to go next?
I guess I'll go, even though everybody took all my words, basically. I always lead with where we are in the program. So as we're in the Mobilizing Main Street program, because we were in Virginia Main Street before, and we're in the progress of going forward and graduating this program. So we're very much an educational part of that, and educating them that we are the nonprofit that is helping us. I like that word liaison. That's a really good one, Katie. So thanks for sharing that, or whoever said that. Thanks, Katie. Because a lot of people get confused when we're hosting all these wonderful events or beautifying our Main Street, that it's the city officials or Parks and Rec or these other organizations that are doing it. So letting them know that we're the ones driving that force. So I like that language. But we always go in to give examples of those things that we're doing on Main Street as far as the beautification, economic development, historic preservation, and a lot of events. That's really it's getting a lot of the attention right now. So.
That's great. And that nonprofit distinction is important because just as each state handles Main Street differently, each locality handles it differently as well. So you have a wide range of structures in the Main Street organization. So describing that's important, especially if you're talking with a potential funding source. Nonprofit's a good keyword there. And just because other people took your words, that's okay. That's opportunity. That is opportunity to think about how can you take that word and define it for your community. So it might say liaison, but is there another word that gets used in your community that you could use to describe specifically Waynesboro? Yeah. Who else?
I can jump in.
Couple more minutes. Yeah.
So just backstory, I started a month ago, so I'm still very, very new to all of this. I am the new Main Street Executive Director for Rocky Mount. So my elevator pitch is it's a collaboration between the town of Rocky Mount and the nonprofit community partnership. And we are a mobilizing, Virginia Main Street mobilizing community working to promote and grow the Central Business District.
That's great. Succinct. I like it.
Hey, just a thought. One of the words that we often hear around the Main Street Network is convener, because you're convening all the partners, the public and the private sector, and bringing them together around a strategy or a vision. So that's a common word that we hear.
Yeah. Another way I like to describe convening is also building consensus. That you're trying to get everybody onto the same page, which we know, or sometimes getting everybody into the same cart so that that cart can then move forward and be pulled by the same horse. So depending on what your challenges and opportunities are, think about, like, there's lots of ways to describe convening. So what does that mean for you all at this current moment? Yeah, got a couple more minutes. Anybody else? Chandra, you put yours in the chat. Do you want to give it to us out loud?
Sure. So I just put the elevator back pitch. I had my aunt visiting, Aunt Ivy / Sheila. And so she was just inquisitive of why I'm traveling, what I'm doing. And I just had to relate it to originally where I'm from. And it's Atlanta. And she lives near Washington, Georgia, who has a main street since the late 90s in a DDA. And so she has no idea what they do, what that looks like. So I just told where they're located is near this wing shop that she goes to and the mural that she talks about. So that's why I said, the downtown by the mural and the wing shop we go to. Well, that's the downtown. That's kind of like the main street. And then asking, like, what do I do for that? Because it's not the state and it's national. We're just an organization that helps downtowns throughout the U.S. come alive. So that can look different ways. And we give a proven game plan to support their needs. So it's not, and then the ask of, like, why is it important is because we're not just in there for nice buildings and great wings, but developing stronger, more prosperous communities. So that's kind of the backstory and the quick. I had a hour and a half car ride, so it went a lot deeper than that. But that is the abridged version.
Yeah, that's great, and that is a good reminder that your elevator pitch can be casual. You oftentimes you build this really succinct, beautiful words elevator pitch. And I promise you, more often than not, you're going to give the more casual version. The thing I love about yours, Chandra, is that you grounded it with the mural. So that's another place to think about what is unique about your community. What's that thing that everybody knows about your Main Street? And it might be a mural, it might be a building, it might be the building that has a restaurant in it that used to be the Piggly Wiggly. Like, it can be like, that's where that history comes in to play. All of those things, grounding it in a physical place can help paint a picture for somebody. Good work, y'all.
Yeah, seriously. I'm going to encourage everybody to come back and watch our group, because of course this is the only one that's recorded, right? But there was some really good conversation and some great guidance. Yeah.
Can I just jump in? Thank you, Chandra, for yours, because I have to admit I was a colossal fail at this, because when you mentioned a great aunt at a picnic or something, I mean, the very first thing we're going to discuss is why there wasn't mustard in the potato salad. And then I want to, since it's my great aunt.
I know that you've had your reservations in the past, but I think.
I think we're hearing Courtney again.
Yeah, you're hearing Courtney across, but we do need to wrap up in like 20 seconds.
No, just, and then I was going to go in to talk about how she would remember cities as being vibrant centers, and then, because that's what we're doing in Roanoke, is we're looking to take 5 core areas and revitalize them and make the city that she would probably know look like it. And then I'm sorry I didn't even get to the Main Street part when you called us together, but I would get to it. I guess for an elevator ride, I have to have a very tall building.
Yeah. But there's an important piece in there, Jordan, and that's that nostalgia piece. And so depending on the age of the person you're talking to and their connection to the community, talking about bringing back, truly revitalizing what maybe have been lost.
All right, I'm closing out. We can keep talking in just a few minutes. Hold tight. Of course, everybody's going to be joining us if you guys want to keep the conversation going right here.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here they come.
Thank you.
Do you find that particular words are specifically off-putting to some groups? In Leesburg, for example, a lot of folks shy away from the term like revitalization because they think that Leesburg is already great, right? And we feel it the same way. So when you say we're revitalizing it, they sort of take offense to that. So we've sort of tried to like not use those kind of words in our communications.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I do a whole presentation on this, but like progress versus preservation. I think to be successful, you need to have equal measures of progress and preservation. And that's what's going to keep you from not alienating any part of your community, because there'll always be people who want to keep things the same, and there'll always want to be people who want to progress. But if you can say we are balancing that, we are holding true to what is unique to our community, and we're preserving that while bringing the economic growth that we know we need to survive as a community. That can be a good way to mitigate that. But John, I think that's great. Like, you truly need to know your audience and what you're getting into, because if you don't, you can quickly turn somebody off. Oh, Kyle, you're muted.
No, I always forget. So we had a really good conversation in the main room, those who didn't get to break out. So, you know, you can go back and hear some of Alex's comments in real time with our group, but now I believe is the time to share a little bit here.
Yeah.
So it's all yours, Alex.
Yeah. Does anybody feel super passionate about their elevator pitch and would like to give it to us?
If there's any hesitation, I want to volunteer Katie Gibson, because I thought you did a really great job of keeping it grounded in the words that you used, being very, you know, your voice. And so.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. As soon as everyone else started talking, I felt like there was a lot I wanted to add, but I'll be happy to share. Okay, I said we're a group of community members who work together to see the possibilities for Bowling Green come to life so that we can leave our town better than we found it for generations to come.
I think that's great, Katie. I love that you kept it simple. A group of community members, because that could be anybody. And no matter who you're talking to, that fits in there.
I also just want to add, though, I liked at the end of our time, we were just talking about keeping it casual and kind of recognizing what people might be interested in. So if you want to drop in a word about an event you just hosted, or, you know, I don't know, a project like a mural was one thing that Chandra said that she used to kind of help someone connect. And I think that's a good point to remember. That doesn't have to be a formal, you know, word for word thing, but here's something we just worked on. You might be familiar with this beautiful mural that just happened. That was us, you know. I think that's a good thing to remember.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, Katie. Yeah, you're going to take time crafting this elevator pitch, and you're going to give this to all your stakeholders and your board members and your team. And in the end, everybody's going to have a different elevator pitch, because you have to feel comfortable and it's got to be your words. And so remember that when you're writing this elevator pitch, it's really just a guideline. And that reminded me of something else. If you're struggling in a conversation with somebody, you can always kick it back to them and say, well, what do you know about? And put your town and your downtown district in there. Or you could say, did you know that we are working to grow our main street? So you could give them a little fact and try to get some rapport back and forth. And that may help you figure out what exactly that person is interested in as well. Also, our group had some great kind of standard sentence openers, and then a chance to lead in and talk about different projects. So talking about projects or what's next or what you have coming up is a great way to tailor what you're saying and how you're saying it to that audience. So then the next level of this is, once you feel like you've got your elevator pitch down, what those words are at the core, what it is that you do as an organization, then how does this pitch change based on your audience? And so, like I just said, it could be projects, it could be events, it could be asking that person what their favorite part of the downtown district is. So maybe they do say a mural, maybe they have a favorite restaurant. I jokingly said that it also could be a favorite building, that building that used to be the Piggly Wiggly and then was this and now is this. Leaning into that nostalgia can be another way to reach your audience depending on who you're talking to. So the real key is truly understanding your audience so that the case that you're making to them is meaningful to them and they understand immediately why what you do is important to that person. Any questions before we move on? Great, thank you. So now we're going to talk about amplifying your story. So how we can go on to the next slide. Perfect. So these are some pieces that are key to a brand and messaging guide. And this is how, once you know your story and you're ready to tell it, how in the world do you get it out there? So it's thinking through your channels. There are 3 types of communication channels: owned, earned, and paid. We'll start with owned. Can anybody put in the chat or raise their hand and give me an example of an owned channel? And I said this to the group, if we were in person, I'd have candy for you. So just imagine you're getting virtual candy by answering the question. But what might be an owned channel? Daniel, great. Social media pages. I'll start there first. I actually think social media fits into all 3 of these. And I really see it as a rented channel. I can't take credit for that. A colleague in Roanoke wrote an article after, who remembers that Facebook outage where everybody thought that they had lost their password? That is an example that it is a rented channel. So we can put up pictures, and just like a house, we can paint the walls, but we can't move the kitchen into the living room. There's only so much that we can do with our social channels. So we can own the content, what we say on those channels. We can earn reach, likes, shares, that connection and engagement we have with people. And then honestly, everything is pay to play. So it's also a paid channel as well. So social channels fit all 3. And really, we like to think of them as rented because in the end, all those likes and follows, if you were to leave Facebook for some reason, you can't go in and collect all of that, all those followers. You can't collect their information. You only have access to it from that channel. Got some things in the chat. Katie, email list. Absolutely. And website. Website is your #1 owned channel. It is your digital welcome mat, to borrow a phrase from tourism. So your website is your entry point for a lot of people, and it is your best place to collect return on investment. So your website, pointing things back to your website, is how you track traffic with Google Analytics, how you can even track a mural. So Chandra was talking about a mural. You can put a vinyl QR code on a mural for people to learn more about that mural and about you all. You can track that QR code and see how many people viewed that mural or viewed your brochure or your hand card or whatever it is. So your website, #1 most important channel. You want to, even if it is just a long scroll landing page, you want to have a presence with a website. And then followed up very closely by email list. Whether you are an organization like you all, like a nonprofit, or you're a business owner, your email list, when somebody gives you their contact information, you now own that information, and it becomes a way that you can message and reach out to people. Some other examples of owned media is your collateral. Anything that you design, print collateral, digital collateral, things that you all are creating and putting out there, and you have control of the messaging, that is an owned channel. How about earned? Any ideas of an earned channel? You can drop them in the chat. Oh, come on, just one. Who has the guess? Newspaper, absolutely. So media, I mean, honestly, earning something, it goes back to writing good press releases and getting the newspaper to write about you, getting the radio station to cover you. Aaron, yes, editorial coverage. Yes, retweets, reshares, that engagement that you earn on social media is earned. It's also, so for a business, it's reviews. But word of mouth is still our #1 earned channel. So again, like I said before, what Jeff Bezos says, that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Everything that people are saying about your organization, that word of mouth, you are earning that. And you want to continue to earn that. And then paid is paid. Any type of paid advertisement that you would place falls into that paid channel. I also, when we teach small business classes, I always remind small businesses that the $500 they spend for downtown trick-or-treating is paid, that you should have those things in your budget. So think about when you're building a budget, think about what are those other things that as a Main Street you might want to support. Maybe it's the high school football team with a banner. Maybe it's a yearbook ad. Maybe there's an annual fundraiser for another nonprofit that you want to always make sure you have a gift basket in their silent auction. Even those community things fit into your paid channels. And early on, those are your best ways to build your local support, because before you can build your external support, you got to build that community basis and that foundation. So you need everybody in town to say the best things about your Main Street and your organization. And then that's how you start to reach the external people, especially outside of your community. Your community can help you tell your story. So who is your tribe? Who are those people that you can say, hey, I'm going to share this post in a couple of hours. Will you share it out when you get home from work? And then your content. So thinking through what kind of content you're creating, and start slow. You guys are in a good spot as organizations just getting started, where you can start slow. Don't add too many channels all at once. We always tell people that the best place to start is Meta, because you can do Facebook and Instagram in one platform. That's a great social channel to get started in. And think about when you're creating content, if you're writing a blog for your website, how do you use that content across all your channels? If you're going to take the time to write something, make sure that you are putting it in every single channel that you own in some form or fashion, and build your capacity over time. It's consistency is better than a lot. We can go on to that next slide. So earned media. So you may feel like you don't have a lot to put out in a press release now. That's okay. Build those connections now, because earned media is hard. So getting in front of your media outlets, even if it's just something small, maybe an event coming up or something like that, and go to them. I use Marion as an example a lot, because Marion sits in a strange place with our media outlets in Southwest Virginia. The hometowns of Matt Rogers are kind of just this weird little spot that kind of hits two different markets. So the Roanoke media market comes down to about Wytheville, and then the Tri-Cities, Tennessee market comes up to about Abingdon, and then there's this gap. So if you live in a space that has a gap, go to your media outlets, offer to come on those daytime TV shows and talk about what you have going on. Even if it's just a Christmas tree lighting or something like that, get out there and build those connections, because then when you have those press releases to put out, you have taken the time to come to them. They're going to take the time to come to you. And then paid advertising, build that work plan now, and don't forget about those community outlets, especially early on. That, again, great ways to build your internal community support. All right. Any questions before we move on to homework? All right, so we'll go on to homework. So tips and tricks, I almost forgot. So we've got a brand and messaging guide outline that Kyle is going to put into your digital work folders, and we'll send a link to the Virginia Main Street press release kit that we worked on for you all earlier this year. And so those are two helpful things. And again, some of the things that we talked about is getting organized now. I know it feels like you're probably drinking through a fire hose and you've got a lot going on, but pausing and building your structure of how you're going to save things, where are you going to put things? Are you using Google Drive or using Microsoft or using Dropbox? Make sure you're getting digitally organized now. Prioritize that foundational collateral. So your logo, your fonts, your colors, once you have those, what's the foundational collateral pieces you need to create? And once you have that consistency, be consistent with it. And then plan for 30 years or more, so you don't get to the 30-year anniversary and you're scrambling for photos and trying to figure out who was that first board member. Save those things now, because I promise they will come to be super helpful as you grow as an organization. Now on to homework. So today was about elevator pitch and getting your messaging together, but we wanted to provide you all with more. And so, like I said, we're going to be sharing that full brand and messaging outline. This is something that our company uses with organizations of all different sizes. You're going to have that full guide. So bonus points if you keep filling it out. But the four sections that you'll need to do for homework are highlighted in that document. You'll need to add your 3 words. Add your mission and vision statement, add your elevator pitch, and work through those internal and external audiences. You'll see in that guide, it's just an outline. We typically lay this out in Canva. So if there's anybody who would like a Canva template of it, please email me. I'm happy to send it to you if you're ready to take the leap and get the visual things going. So you'll see that in the top section. And then the messaging section covers listing out your communication channels. What is your tagline? What are those keywords and tone words? Writing a boilerplate for press releases, all the way down to creating target personas. So we have found that filling out this document and then using it like for generative AI is a great way to create a branded voice prompt for you. So it also becomes super handy as you bring on new volunteers. A brand and messaging guide can be included in a board packet. It can be included in a volunteer orientation. It's great once you get those visuals in there and you're starting to order swag. You can send it to your vendor and say, here's our colors, here's our logo usage. And even all the way down to maybe one day you have an intern to help with communications. This is a guiding document that makes sure that everybody understands what you say and how you say it. Any questions or key discoveries that you had from our time together?
Come on, y'all. Did she break your brain?
It's a lot of information. I know it is.
I want to commend you, Alex. You put this together in a really easily understood, just a right amount of content. Timing is impeccable, I gotta say. So as a facilitator here, I want to thank you for that stuff. Guys, is this your chance to ask questions? Alex is going to stick around through the end of the next half hour. So if you don't have anything right now, we can circle back to you. All right, Aaron has a question.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to kind of ask is how often you recommend we review kind of our messaging and overall branding as an organization?
Great question. When we do this work for clients, oftentimes we add on a communications roadmap. And so we think this is something you should look at least annually. Or when you come to key moments, and those things will happen as you grow as an organization, something will happen that you'll say, oh, we really need to update this in our brand and messaging guide. So doing the work now will help make sure that your messaging stays on point as something changes in your community. So those points will happen. So when it happens, take the time to stop and do it. But at least annually, taking a look through and making sure everything still fits. And this is your your Bible. So you can do whatever you want with it. You can add anything to it. We see clients who like to add projects, upcoming projects. We do a lot of economic development work. So our regional economic development authorities will have their sector industries, their growth industries listed in there. And those change over time too. So as you're seeing the need change in your community, you may get to a point where you only have a couple of storefronts open. And so your main focus for communications for the upcoming year might be more in community building and building support than finding people to fill spaces downtown. Housing, we know, is a huge need, especially in our rural, very rural areas. So maybe housing becomes a focus, and how do you get more apartments and housing opportunities downtown. So you can even add those things in there, and this guide can become honestly more of a work plan, or it can be a second section to this. You can have your visual section, your messaging section, and what the plan is for the upcoming year. So as you're doing board retreats and things like that, your annual planning, it's a good time to pause and look at this. Great question.
Liz?
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, I just echoing your point about this being very timely. So we've entered a conversation with our city's marketing department to sort out how we define the actual physical space and geography of our Main Street versus like our Main Street initiative. And I was wondering if maybe you could share some thoughts about kind of where those two things lie, and like how to kind of negotiate what makes the most sense for us.
Yeah. Is there a specific sticking point that you're running into in this conversation? Or just difficult?
No, and it's not a difficult conversation. It is a conversation that we've just started. I think a little bit of our sticky point is just defining our geography, and we have sort of several overlaying maps that cover the area we want to talk about. And so, some people refer to our spaces downtown versus Old Town, and there's some like complexity there. So yeah, I don't mean to suggest it's a negative or there's any conflict involved. Just sort of, I guess my question is like, where does the branding and marketing and communications around your physical geography leave off, and like your initiative pick up, and like just like best guidance or advice around that, sorting that out.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. I wanted just to see if it sounds almost like a community-wide, not issue, a community-wide conversation. And so it's important to define your geography and how you refer to it, because that's a unique to your community. So not everybody says Main Street because they're, Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee, it's State Street, it's not Main Street. So, how they talk about it is different than other localities. And so if there are terms that are being used in your locality that are different, it's defining that and getting everybody on the same page. And so there might be an opportunity here for some community listening sessions. Can you bring some people together? Can you do a survey to see what people have called this area for a while? So it could be that you sit down with the city officials and define the geography, and then put that back to the community and say, this is the area we are focusing on as quote Main Street, but what do you call this area? And so you may find that there are different words that you need to use to describe your downtown district, but this is super important work, because if you don't do this now, it's going to just get increasingly difficult when you're making a case for support, because people aren't going to know what you're talking about. And so then you're going to find yourself having to almost code switch between audiences depending on what this area is called. So if you can get some consensus now on what this downtown district is and how you're going to talk about it, and you and the city can get on the same page with some community support, that's going to make life a lot easier moving forward.
That's a good conversation. Thank you, Liz. And we can talk about, how that might roll out or what those conversations look like. I want to put a pin in this conversation right now because we have some other things to discuss to close out our formal 75-minute part of the huddle. Alex will be here, so we can come back and in the last 15 minutes address any further questions that you might have. But so thank you. So everybody pause on that. Keep your questions. We'll come back. But this is now we have a piece here that we need to chat about with our economic development data, and I'm going to hand that off to Zachary.
Thank you, Kyle. Can you hear me still?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So as Alex noted earlier, data plays an important role in telling your community story. And as part of your participation in the Mobilizing Main Street program, your organization is expected to submit economic development data to Virginia Main Street on a monthly basis, beginning in fiscal year 2026. So starting in August, reporting will follow a monthly cycle in which you will submit data for the previous month. So July data will be reported in August, August data in September, and so on. The data that we collect specifically spans all 4 points of the Main Street approach. So we're asking for things like private and public improvement projects completed within your district and their associated costs, business activity, including openings, closings, relocations, expansions, things like that, jobs created and or lost as a result of business activity in your district, promotional events and attendees, housing units placed into service, and finally volunteer contributions, which do have measurable market value. At Virginia Main Street, we are going to use this local level data to highlight really the collective impact of our network, recognize your successes, and demonstrate the return on investment that local Main Street programs deliver statewide. And at the end of the year, you're going to get a annual report of sorts from us that measures this impact over time, not just each year, but cumulative program statistics as you progress through the Main Street program. Each community will be assigned a reporting project in our centralized application and management system, otherwise known as CAMS, for those of you that are familiar. Some of you may already have a CAMS project assigned, while others are still working through the initial setup process. If your organization does not yet have a CAMS account, your PA will help determine which entity should temporarily take the lead on data entry with your help, of course, until your account is established. So those are conversations you'll have with your PA offline. Your PA is also going to be your partner in navigating this process. So they will assist you in thinking through how to effectively collect and manage your data as you get started. And knowing that this is a new process for many of you, I just want to emphasize that we're looking for progress, not perfection. So over time, your program will build a rhythm and routine that makes data collection seamless. And that's something that we're here to help you achieve ultimately. So as we prepare to enter fiscal year 26, I will be sharing after this meeting additional instructions on how to access and complete monthly reports, along with a things to consider guide, which will offer helpful tips for effective data collection and provide some hopeful clarification on what each section of the CAMS report is going to be asking for and how you can best interpret it. So just be on the lookout for that email. This is not anything to be afraid of. It's not scary. Data's fun. We will begin this journey soon. That's it from me, Kyle.
That's awesome. Yes, and just reiterate the fact that you're going to be working with your program administrator to get this under wraps. Yeah, so no fear. Very good, Zachary. Thank you so much.
May I ask a question? This is
Yeah.
Chris Tillett from Portsmouth Economic Development.
Go for it, Chris.
Just quick question on the job stuff. Most of the time we pull down from the VEC and it's not normally updating every month. Just how accurate, I guess, of the numbers are we looking for on things like that?
I think the best thing that communities can do is just to be consistent in how you're reporting the data. So whatever your baseline is, whatever your method is, I would just continue that practice and communicate with your PA about how you're reporting it. Those are the conversations that I think you and your PA need to have so that there is an understanding if there is any questions or things that need more clarity like that, you know.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Zach.
Mhm.
That was a good answer.
Mhm.
Thank
And
you.
Yeah.
if you don't mind me interjecting,
Go. Yes.
Kyle, there you go. For smaller communities, you may not be able to pull your data down from another source. It just won't necessarily be accurate. And in those cases, you're going to be a primary data collector. So that's going to be part of the function of the Main Street organization. And that means going door to door to your businesses as part of your business visitation program and finding out how many, it doesn't have to be awkward, but you do need to find out how their business is progressing. Have they hired anyone? Have they made any improvements? Just kind of go through a couple of key data points that you can weave into the conversation around overall business support and encouragement. And we have a really great example of that in Luray, Virginia. They're one of our smaller fully accredited designated programs. And Jackie does walk her entire district once a week, and she has a clipboard, so it's very old school, and she checks off to make sure that she has that information from every business at least once a month.
And there certainly are other examples that we'll share with folks that do surveys and other online tools, mass text messages, just calls for data entry, report what you can report, essentially, work with your municipalities, pulling building permits, business permits, other things. There's a multitude of ways to collect data. So find what works best for you and try to grow that with your program.
Thank you for those clarifications. Anything else? Those are going to move on to the next 30. All right. So hopefully, key takeaways here, you have a concise and compelling elevator pitch that you developed to clearly communicate your program value. The power of storytelling was explored as a tool to build support, connection, and engagement. And you're oriented, at least, this early phase, to the economic development data reporting. And the PAs will help you solidify that understanding for sure. So over the next 30 days, so you heard it from Alex, complete the highlighted sections in the brand and messaging guide found in your community folder. It is there. So you can go to the Google Drive for mobilizing and take a look at that. That will be there. And the press release kit, I will make sure that there's access to that. I'll put a link to that in the lesson folder, so everybody will have access to that. Then watch the video, strategy-driven programming. This is from our Switch to 6 series that highlights the 6 standards of Main Street America for community accreditation. And this is going to help tee you up for the transformation strategy work that's going to happen over the next couple of months and through the fall. So that'll be 40 minutes of your life for watching a video. Get some popcorn, grab some lunch. I don't know. These are really good. This is a really great series. We had Main Street America reps speaking, and they're solid. Then discuss monthly economic development data with your PA. So during your next monthly meeting with your PA, let's nail that down. Make sure that you understand and get you all set up so you can start collecting that stuff. And then this is just sort of a catch-all at the very end. Prepare for and schedule transformation strategy service with your PA. More information about that will come. We're getting our act together about how that's going to be deployed. So more information when you meet with your PA in the near future. All right. Golly, look at that. 12:15. Good grief. Can we land a plane on a pin needle? We do it. We just did it. Any questions at this point? What do we need for more clarity? We've got next 15 minutes for All of our A+ students. Your stomach's growling. It might be, sort of speaking over top of your brain at this point. And that's okay. Give you guys a second, see if there's anything left.
Liz, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess where I was coming from, like we do understand we need to define our area, but I guess understanding the difference between the geography we're marketing and the initiative that we're speaking about.
Gotcha. And so I think the geography is important to it because you need people to know what your service area is. And that was something I always struggled with as a Main Street director, was that there would be people just right outside of the service area who wanted to have a part of some of the special things. So I guess that's what I was getting at, is that geography is important, so that way you know who you're reaching out to, and then it's messaging what you provide to that area, and then what you provide to the broader community as a whole. So there's layers of communication that needs to happen in that. Does that help a little bit?
It does, and I think what we're looking to do now is rebrand, like define the geography, rebrand the geography, and like back into our Main Street branding from that. That seems like the logical workflow for us. I guess this is just a very sort of fresh conversation that I have embedded around with a lot of folks in terms of whether that does make sense, or if that's the right direction to be moving through. And maybe like the exercise that you've laid out here can kind of shed some light to that conversation. I just appreciate your perspective on it.
If I was in your spot, I would go in that direction first too. Defining the geography, and then helping the community lay out what is called, and then letting that inform your branding and your messaging and how that moves forward.
I think our fear is like, we're working as a Main Street, but we don't have an identity yet for the work that we're doing, and we don't want to define that until the area we're serving has its own identity sort of redefined through this process. So
yeah, and taking the time to get the community pulse is going to be important, because the more input you can get, as messy and as gut-wrenching as that can be, because you can't control some of that, it's going to help inform you and you'll make better decisions with that information. So the hard work is gathering that from the community and dealing with the good and the bad that comes from it. But it's going to set you up for success.
I've got a question sort of in the same vein. Chris from Portsmouth again. So, and it may be for a different group, but do Main Streets typically, so we want to call ours Old Town, and there's an actual official for zoning ordinance and districts, an area called Old Town. Do Main Streets typically boundary wise follow zoning, and or do they purposefully not for good reasons? And I don't even know if I'm asking that in the right way.
You are. Kyle's shaking his head. I'll let Kyle answer that one.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Okay, Courtney, pause.
And I apologize, I'm on my phone. I got locked out of my computer when I was in Roanoke at the grant thing. I guess they thought I was like trying to hack in. And so I'm on my phone sitting in my office.
You're good, Chris. Well, let's see. Where do I start? Okay, first, just related to Liz's conversation, I posted a blog that I wrote in 23. It's in virginiamainstreet.com. I posted the link to that describes a little bit about why you want boundaries in the first place. And this might help you to communicate a little bit, or at least have some talking points around communicating with those who are outside the boundaries and those who are inside the boundaries. Just something to think about there. And then those of you who are starving and need to go, you can go. Remember, this last 15 minutes from 12:15 until 12:30 is optional. So only for the A+ students. Just keep that in mind. So if you're leaving, it leaves us all.
First time in my life. I love it.
I love it, Chris. Good. So then, Chris, to your point, we've got all these regulatory boundaries that serve a purpose, like our historic districts, even local historic districts. That's because it's tied to an ordinance, it's regulatory. It's that serves its own purpose in order to protect those resources. But our Main Street program has its own boundaries in order to protect and drive resources into the commercial core of your historic downtown. And so those boundaries may be a little bit different. There's always going to be something, a little bit of a jog out or in those boundaries that differ from the boundaries of some of those regulatory maps. So no, they're never going to be exactly the same, but they're a great starting point, because what we say, even with as we determine our boundaries going forward, because there's a little bit of an application for that later on in mobilizing, to start with your historic district boundaries. That at least lets you know, hey, some of our core assets are being captured. It's a great place to start. But they don't often include everything at this stage. It might be old. You might have some new businesses that have opened that are outside of those boundaries in new construction or something like that. And you'll want to, include those. So
Gotcha.
We can talk a little bit more about that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it, Chris, go.
So we essentially fight with two things. We have the area of Old Town, which is typically the residential area, but there is some commercial, and then downtown's technically the High Street or Main Street corridor. I don't know if we've all settled, but I think we want to call everything Old Town, and even the city is going back and forth within our own official zoning book on, do we change it? Do we not? Again, certain stuff's tied to residential historic stuff, but then, there's a local, state, and federal level of historic designations, and that doesn't, and so you've got a lot of not necessarily conflicting, but a lot of, outside things that determine, and, certain people are stuck. Personally, I think everything should just be called Old Town. It's easier. There's also multiple downtowns in the 757, so we can differentiate. Anyway, conversation for a later day.
Yeah, and those kinds of conversations can happen in the focus groups that are going to be coming up for your Main Street America Transformation Strategy Service. You're going to have some key stakeholders that are gathered, and it'd be good to hear from them about, hey, what do you guys think about what the boundaries of this program? What do you think is the proper boundary for our historic commercial district? Because you've got the innovation district, you've got the Old Town, you've got all of these that make up your programmatic core. So it may be linked to branding eventually and not necessarily use any of the existing language. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you for indulging me.
Yeah, Chris, sure. Love it. We still have a few minutes. Anybody has anything else that they want to talk about? Otherwise, we'll sit here in silence for a few minutes until we know there's a clear ending to this meeting. Well, I'm going to say this, Alex, you were awesome. Thank you. Or you still are. You will continue to be. Thank you so much for your work today and working with me to pull all this together. It's fantastic. Like I said, you hit the needle on the head with just the right amount of content. You did a great job in delivering it to us. We love your personality, your expertise. Thank you so much for your time today. One thing I want to point out to everybody is that she did say that if you want to bounce your crafted final elevator pitch past her later on, you've got her contact information that'll be in the slide deck. So please feel free to reach out to Alex. Is there anything in closing, Alex, that you wanted to say?
Just reiterate, I'm happy to answer questions. Would love to do that. Also, you said that I hit the nail on the head with the timing. We do a lot of workshops. So if there's a workshop that your organization needs, or something that could help with community building or consensus building, we do facilitated discussions and things like that. I'd be happy to chat about how we might be able to support some of these community pieces, because sometimes it's helpful to have somebody who is not from the area come in and lead the conversations and maybe say some of the harder things. So whether it's coaching and upskilling your team, or helping you build consensus, that's all stuff that we enjoy doing.
Thank you, Alex.
You're
And
welcome.
Chandra, thank you for being here. You all will see Chandra next month and in August and throughout the fall too. So we'll get to know Chandra well over the next several months. She's doing homework today. She's just watching and observing.
I am, but thank you all for having me, taking
Yeah.
pointers from Alex and the
Yeah.
timing, and trying not to assign so much homework within the breakout sessions and beyond.
It is a challenge. You got that. Cool. All right, y'all. I feel like this is it. So thank you for another successful huddle. I'll get all this stuff posted and look out for a follow-up email with sort of the follow-up package. But thanks so much. You guys stay cool. Take care of yourselves.
Thanks, well.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.